Hey guys, it's Dylan. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to do something a little bit different than I normally would on my channel. I don't feel I've done a proper introduction of myself yet, and I feel like that if you're going to be watching my channel, I'd like to get you to know me a little bit better and who I actually am. Whatever you see in my videos is someone else. I mean, it is me, and it's me trying to change, but I want to talk about my history and how I got to where I am right now. So that's what we're going to do today. So now to start off, I'm not going to call myself a good person. I'm not going to call myself a bad person. I've done a lot of messed up stuff in my past, and I will admit that. I'm not perfect by any standard, and I will never claim to be ever. I think the hardest part about making this video is going to be figuring out where to start, because there's a lot of instances where I could call them key moments. I just want to paint a picture of the true contents of my character and some of my humor or some of my struggles might lie. It's probably best to just start way from the beginning, about when I was 16 years old. Growing up, I was a bit of a troubled kid. I got into trouble and I did stuff every teen kid does. I dealt with a lot of stuff at home that was questionable, and I really don't want to get into that in this video. I don't feel that there's going to be any justice bringing it up or making it public, so we're going to skip the at-home stuff. Maybe we'll do that in another video in the future, but I don't want to open up about that at this particular moment. At 16, I had just gotten my first job at Pizza Ranch, which was one of the most god-awful jobs I've ever worked. And with brutal honesty, I wish I could go back and change that. It was right before I had to leave for work. Me and my mom had gotten into some huge argument. This was our last real argument, actually. Things were said back and forth, and next thing you know, my shit's being thrown out of the second story of our house. It's really hard to forget that day, because that was the day where everything really changed. That was a defining moment for everything that happened after. I remember my mom was telling me that I was kicked out and I had to find somewhere to go, and I called my friend Kevin. Kevin is by far one of the best people that's come into my life. He's a great friend. He's a great listener. He you could call him in the middle of the night and he's gonna come for you. That's the type of person he is. When I called Kevin and I said, you know, I'm getting kicked out. Is there any chance I could get, have a place to stay for a bit? I need some help getting my stuff, moving it. And he came right then and there, helped me out of a really bad situation, like friends do. So Kevin came and picked me up. We had all of the stuff in the car, which was literally all of my belongings, everything. And my mom was like, you either take it or I throw it out tomorrow. So we threw everything in the back of his little Cherokee, whatever it was. It was a weird thing. As we're driving, he kind of looks back and notices there's an excessive amount of stuff. So, of course, I had to get rid of my stuff. But we'll get to that. So we pull in to my friend Kevin's house and we talk to his mom and we discuss, what I have to pay to stay there, and she was really welcoming. It was like the mother I had always wanted and I just couldn't have. There's not many people like that will actually open up their heart to support you and take care of you. But she did. She said I could stay as long as I kept in school and stayed on track. And I didn't. I did not. In fact, that was actually where my problems began. At the age of 16, I started using drugs. It started out with, just smoking cigarettes, and then I started smoking pot at 16. I had smoked by the time I was like 14, but I had never actually ventured further into that. I had never gone out of my way to go get it or anything. I never even had the money. My mom never even allowed me to keep money. So that wasn't an issue until I got kicked out and I had my job. And I remember my friend's mom telling me, you need to stop doing that. And I started going to meetings. And truth be told, the meetings were honestly one of the greatest things that ever happened to me in my life. I still look back and go, why am I not going to meetings? Like, you could just go to a meeting and everything would feel so much better. I did go to those meetings for weeks, and I eventually stopped. It had become a second home to me. Not only did I stop going to the meetings, I started smoking meth at 16. I'm not proud of it, but it happened. And this is one of the key moments that really shaped me into who I am today. I had originally started using it so I could sit up and play Skyrim at night because I just absolutely hated it at school. It was awful to me. I was antisocial. I never made any friends, and the friends I did make were just garbage. They treated me like garbage, and it started to make me feel like that. I had gotten kicked out of my friend Kevin's after about a year. His mom couldn't handle my bullshit. She said I was a dry drunk. You know, it was like an addict without the habits, but the 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 real, honest to God truth was that I was not a dry drunk. I was addicted to meth. She kicked me out. I went to my grandma's. My grandma said I could stay. I just needed to wait till I was 18 so I could get a place because the law wouldn't allow me to do it without emancipating myself and my parents. In that year and a half, 2 years that I spent at my grandma's, I got so much worse. I went from not just smoking meth to every once in a while to stay up and play video games. It was every single night. Every single night. I literally couldn't even go to school without doing them. I was doing drugs at school in the bathrooms. I just had a problem and I couldn't stop. I was just such a sad person, and it was just something I could cling on to. It was the one thing that made me feel something. It was hard to feel anything. So I turned 18 and I was severely addicted to meth. But I was 18 and I was able to get my own place. So I started looking on Craigslist and whatnot for extra rooms, and I finally found one. It was a garage. It was a garage that wasn't connected. It had heating. It was really small. It was ridiculously small, and they wanted $450 a month. But by this time, I had already had to quit school because I needed to work for my money so I could get a place. And I was paying my bills. I was kind of keeping on track, but now that I was on my own, there was no one to say, you need to go to bed. You need to go to bed. So I would stay up for days. Like, the longest I was up was 2.5 weeks. The the internet says you can stay awake for 3 days without dying. But by that standard, I'm dead at least 5 or 6 times now. I had gotten to a point where I was kind of burning myself out. I mean, staying up 3 or 4 days in a row and going to work, and then going home and playing video games and smoking more, and staying up all night and going back to work day after day after day after day. It really started to hit me hard. It hadn't even just messed with my sleep schedule or anything. It started messing with my friendships, my relationships, my whole attitude. This was about the time I changed from, the nice, sweet Dylan to just straight up criminal. Out doing hood rat shit with my friends. I was the type of person, you see walking down the street and you maybe walk to the other side. The type of person that walks into a gas station and the gas station clerk has to say, "Are you okay?" What do you mean, am I okay? I'm fine. I was not fine at all. Anyways, I'm 18. I'm about 2 years into my meth addiction. 2.5, about that. This was about the time where you would look at me and, you would see dramatic changes. I got the little skelly cheeks, got messed up skin, I'm picking, washing my clothes in a weeks, 3 weeks. I was losing significant amounts of weight. The weight was one of the real, key moments where I was like, you know what? I think I have a problem. Anyways, I can't pay my bills anymore. I got fired from my job. I had shown up on acid because I didn't know I was working that day. And you know what? Stupid me could have just said, there's no way I can come in. I'm deathly ill and I didn't know I was working today. But I was high and I still went to work. And I paid the price for that. I couldn't tell the difference between a stop sign and a car. I don't know why I went. I remember getting sent home and then I was able to go to work for one more day. On that last day at work, I showed up and I remember one of my friend's wallets had gotten stolen. On that last day I showed up, one of my friend's wallets had gotten stolen, and I knew who it was because they kept telling me I needed to go up front because they were calling me, and then I asked the manager and they said, "Oh, I didn't need you back here. Like, what are you doing?" He was really persistent, You need to go up front. They keep calling you. They're telling you to do this. I kept going up front and, "No, you're not supposed to be back here. Get your ass back there." About 30, 45 minutes pass and my friend comes up to me and he goes, "It was funny. I can't find my wallet. Did you take it? If so, can I just have it back? Like, you shouldn't be taking stuff from my locker." I mean, I have my issues, but I'm certainly not a thief. And why would I take your wallet? Like, that's not even funny. I'm trying to work. It was at that time that I had realized this douchebag was back there stealing stuff because I was stupid enough to go up there over and over and over. And you know what? I did go up there. But he didn't think I was smart enough to put two and two together. I told my boss, and they checked the cameras, and he was going back there. They didn't strictly have him on camera doing it because the lockers were out of camera sight, just like every freaking job. I called him out for it, and then next thing you know, I'm getting called a racist because I'm accusing a black guy of stealing, and it's like, you were going back there and taking stuff out of there. It's obvious. No one else was able to walk away from their stations. You're the only one trying to get me to go up front. It was you. You're the only person it could have possibly been because it was there 20 minutes ago. So this guy decides to leave. He just gets up and leaves. And 20 minutes later, there are charges on my friend's card for Chuck E. Cheese's and shoe stores. They had bought 3 pairs of Jordans on my friend's card. Coincidentally, only, 20-30 minutes after he had left, and he was the only one who had left. The thing that I find really funny about this part of the story is he actually talked to the police and said that I apologized for being racist and I gave him a $100 gift card, but I was a meth head. I was too broke, and if I had $100, you know what I would have done? I would have bought some goddamn meth. It didn't even line up. About 30 or 40 minutes later, the managers took me out to the dining room. It was empty, everyone had gone, and it was really slow. And I thought I was getting fired over this incident, but this was not the incident that got me fired. It was because I came to work high, 2 days prior. And I remember during this interview, my manager looked at me and he had tears in his eyes. After working with people, you really get close to them. And you start to care about them. And your job turns into a family. And he was in tears because he had to fire me, and he had to lose part of his family that he had grown to love. And it was sad because I had grown to love all of them too. I wasn't even upset about it. I was more bummed out about, how am I going to pay my rent and all that. But to this day, I will never forget the tears that I saw him shed over me. It was one of the moments that had actually shown the damage that I had caused to people around me. I really hurt him. And actually, 2 years later, I went back there and I asked to speak to him again. I had to wait about an hour and a half because it was extremely busy. But I did wait there. And he did talk to me. I told him everything. I didn't expect to get my job back or anything. But this was the first time I was truly honest with somebody in my addiction. Just gotten, really hard to live knowing that I'd hurt somebody so bad that they actually cried for me. And there wasn't a lot of people who had actually done that in my life, that had shown me they actually truly cared like that. And it meant something. Anyways, I went home, jobless, addicted to meth, no money for meth or food anymore. Once the landlord realized I couldn't pay anymore, I got kicked out. And the only option I had was to go stay with my friend who was also using. And this is where it got worse. Not only was I using a lot, I started using 2 to 3 times more. Every second of every day was spent with a bubble on my lips. Every single day. I was showing up for interviews and they wouldn't even hire me because I was so whacked out every single time. They would take one look at me and they're probably debating as to whether they should even bother doing the damn interview with me. I mean, who wants to hire somebody like that? I wouldn't. By this time, I'm about 19. I went from a 200-pound kid to, like 120. I went from chunky Dylan to like Holocaust survivor. It was crazy. I remember going over to my mom's on Christmas and seeing that I had dropped down to 180. And then I went back over again for my birthday 4 months later in April. And I had lost 60 pounds from 120. I had lost 60 pounds in 4 months. They say that to lose weight at a healthy rate, you probably lose about 2 pounds a month. But I had been losing about 15 pounds a month. So at that point that I had realized that, if I keep doing this, I'm going to die. And then from there, I started going to meetings again. That wasn't the end of it, though. I had started again, but I had gone every single day from there on. Every day there was a meeting, I went. I would get up and go to work because I got another job at a Perkins. And I really wanted to maintain that job because it was one of the few good things I had. I knew that as long as I had this job, I had a chance to go somewhere. But I knew I wouldn't go anywhere if I wasn't going to the meetings because then I wouldn't be sober. I'd get up for work at 5 in the morning and I'd bike about 5-6 miles to work or something like that. And I'd get there at 6 a.m. and then I would work till say 3 or 4 in the afternoon, maybe 5 sometimes. And then I would go straight to my meetings until 9 or 10 at night. So I'm doing maybe 10-15 miles a day on my bike, going to work and then going to the AA meetings and then coming back, maybe 6 hours of sleep, and then do the same thing every single day. And it did help. It really did work. But I started to get so burnt out. I didn't have the energy for meetings anymore. I wasn't getting much social interaction besides the AA meetings. I hardly had any friends. In fact, I was going through a lot of friend troubles at that point too. But I don't want to get into that either. And at this point, I was not using meth. In fact, I wasn't even using marijuana. But I got burnt out and I started using cocaine. Great idea, right? Did you know that meth's bad for you? Well, that's okay. I guess I could just do cocaine instead. What? How is that any worse than meth? Oh boy, let me tell you, it is just as bad, and don't let anybody tell you any different. Cocaine is terrible. I fell off the wagon again. Now, while I was at Perkins, I found a sponsor that I worked with, and I actually saw them at the meetings a few times. They went to the women's one, and I went to the men's, so we never really saw each other that much, but we knew of each other's existence and participation at the meetings. I really let her down. And I said that I was going to bust my ass for her, and I failed to do that. And I deeply regret it to this day, because I really let somebody, who opened up their heart again to me, I let them down. I didn't want to, and I wish I hadn't, but I did, and that's part of addiction. You're going to let people down, whether you want to or not. Anyways, I was living with this person, we'll just call him Clark. It's close enough. That's such a long story that we're gonna have to save that for another video, because boy do I have some stories. Anyways, this crazy old man kicks me out, and I go stay with my friend Bryce. At this point, I'm not entirely sober, okay? I'm not using meth, I'm not using cocaine, I'm trying to do my best. I'm still smoking pot like crazy, just to, make up for it. It was hard on me, and the pot really helped. It gave me something that allowed me to say, I can be fucked up, and I can relax. I'm not going to be up all night. It doesn't really change my attitude that much. In fact, I actually felt like a happier person. But while I was staying with my friend, they started using meth. They actually started to use after, me telling them all of my horror stories and how terrible it was. For some reason, they allowed me to move in with them, and then they started after. Almost immediately. It was almost like it was out of spite. And they started leaving it out, and you know what? After having it sit in front of you, and even though you don't want to use, it's right in front of you, like directly in your face all the time, because they leave it out. And you say, can you at the very least not leave that out, because I am struggling and I'm trying, and this isn't making it any easier. But he didn't care, because he was using meth. He was an addict, just like I was. And I fell to temptation, and I started using again. It's not his fault I started using. It was my choice. I was just weak.